And we can do it the next week again when she's in. If she
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
have,
maybe.
she's not making.
Yeah.
If she's not making millions of dollars, and we're just here, for us, making.
Yeah.
Yes, Vivian, I was recording. Make that money, girl.
All right, so we were kind of talking about the Om meditation. I think we're going to bring that back again next week and do that in the class. And the subject I want to talk about is Mundane Task Meditation, which I know Vivian has done before, but I think it's an important one to add to our collection of meditations. But let's just start with a meditation so we can get centered and squared away. So feet flat on the floor, hands in the lap. Let's go ahead and close the eyes. And just let go of everything that's going on outside us as we come inside. Just a longer version of that check-in, but a guided version. So just noticing our body right now. And let's just do a body scan this time, starting at the top of the head. Just feeling the scalp. Anything shows up there. Coming down, just feeling the face, the eyes that are lightly touched together. Eyelids closed, and then the lips pressing up against each other with the mouth closed. And then moving down into our neck and shoulders. Just noting anything that shows up today in our neck and shoulders. And then moving down just both arms, just going down to the top of the arms, the elbows, the forearms, all the way down to the hands. Just noticing your hands, how they feel against your lap and your legs. And then moving to the chest area and the belly. And then around to your back, your upper back, your mid back, your low back. And just feeling your hips and glutes sitting against the chair, the back of your legs. Your knees down through your calves, ankles, and finally your feet against the floor. And now just your whole body. And just being present to your whole body. That gentle pull of gravity against our body, settling into this space. Again, as the thoughts come up, we just bring our attention back to our body, back to that single point of focus. And now turning the attention to the breath. Just noticing the breath without changing it at first. And then let's just take 3 inhales and exhales. So a deep inhale in, longer exhale out. Big, deep second inhale in, and long exhale out. And then big inhale in, and on this third exhale, just notice the letting go inside the body on this long exhale, expelling all the air out of the lungs. And then just allowing the breath to come back to its normal rhythm. And then just taking note of what's going on in the brain. How busy is our brain today? And then just relax your attention, keeping the eyes closed just for a moment. And then when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. You might jot down again, have pen and paper ready to jot down anything that came up. Again, a little bit different that time, just doing the body scan. It's another more organized way. That one's a little bit tougher for me to do on my own for some reason. It helps me to have someone guiding me through that, but that way you're hitting everything instead of just focusing on one part of the body. And I wanted to also include some inhales and exhales because whenever we find ourselves needing a pause and needing a break, and sometimes when we go to do a check-in, one of my coaching clients uses this check-in when they're starting to have anxiety. They'll just take a break, excuse themselves to go to the bathroom or wherever where they can just take a moment and just do the check-in, but with a focus on some inhales and exhales, just noting the power of the breath, that releasing of the breath. There's a natural response. I always use the example of when you see a picture of a cute puppy, you automatically go, oh. And that feeling that you have, it's like there's something about that exhale, that sound and that exhale that is a result of that feeling, or a sigh. After you've finished exerting.
I have when I see you, so. Cute puppy.
Right. So the reverse is true. Like we are satisfied with something. We just take a bite of chocolate cake and we're like, or that exhaling is a result of something feeling good. You do a big stretch in the morning, that exhale. And at the same time, you can use that exhale to help you let go when you're either physically tense or emotionally and anxiously bound up. You can use that exhale just to let go. There's a certain letting go that happens. And in my physical practice, when I'm teaching my physical yoga practice, there's certain postures where this is very evident. There's a big twist posture that I do on the floor where your arm probably isn't going to reach all the way down to the floor, but on the exhale, you feel the letting go, and on the inhale, there's a little bit of retreat, and then you exhale and it relaxes the rest of the way. Every time there's a little bit more letting go. There's just something about that breathing that will help calm a busy mind down. So I just wanted to add those nuances to your check-in. It doesn't have to be the same every time. You can do that body scan where you're literally going through body parts instead of just checking in. And then the same thing, while you always want to kind of get a baseline of your breath, it's also an option to take a moment to do 3 or 4 or 5 deep breaths. There was an article I read some time ago. This is all the way back when I was working at Remax and had this very stressful job. And it was about timing your breath, like how many normal inhales and exhales do you take over a minute when you're resting? And then to try and just take that many breaths. So it might be 8 breaths or 7 breaths or whatever, but that's also just another tricky way of getting you to take a break. To just exit whatever it is, the racing mind, knowing that the thoughts are going to come up, but when your mind's particularly bound up and you've got a lot going on, being able to marry it with a physical something like a breath, even if it's just 3 breaths. And I find myself doing this just naturally when I'm triggered by something. I was telling Fernando last night about my neighbor who's got his very interesting political opinions. But triggering me very much. And I was just like, during the conversation, I would just go, just not real evident, but in my mind, just taking a breath before I respond or decide whether I'm going to respond. And it's just another way of finding that pause button. So what I want to talk about today is this, what's called a mundane task meditation. And have we done this before? We haven't done this before, Fernando, right? No.
Not that I
Okay, so it's funny, you're muted, but I can hear you.
No, I just
Oh,
unmuted when I have to talk.
You're quick. You're quick.
I have the construction going on down here and they're cutting, so
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. And in my class that I teach on Tuesdays, in today's class, there's this buzzing noise at the Y going on, and it finally stopped. Today it wasn't buzzing, and in the room was eerily quiet. Yeah, I'm so used to this buzzing noise. Now that it's silent, it was just completely awkward because it was so quiet in the room. Nothing going on outside. And then in the middle of Shavasana, we finally get through an hour-long class, and then the garbage truck comes. And the garbage, like giant dumpster, is right next to that room. So all that crashing and banging, and there's a couple of little giggles that went off. But that's just that. You need there to be some challenge, but you don't want to just be pulled completely away. You know, like somebody breaks a window downstairs in your construction and that pulls you away. But I was trying to help people understand that you want to have some challenge. So this idea of a mundane task meditation is, it's not something I normally introduce right away because it's a little bit more of a challenge for some people. But basically what you're looking for is an activity that you do every day or often that you don't really have to think. And like a lot of these things, it's easier if you kind of pick your own thing, but I'll give you some examples. Like brushing your teeth. You don't really have to think about brushing your teeth. I mean, I even have an electric toothbrush that turns off when it's done, so I don't have to think. I don't know if washing your hands is long enough, even pandemic-wise. It needs to be a little bit longer than that. It can also be just in the shower, taking a shower in the morning. But probably not walking. That's in a different category because there's so much going on with walking. That's its own kind of category because that's more of a mindful walk practice. This is actually a meditation because many people and many brains will take that opportunity when they're doing something that's mundane or boring or doesn't take any thinking to make the list, to ruminate about whatever it is that's going on. And I found this to be very challenging because, and I was completely unaware of it. And this was, years into my meditation practice, and at least a year into my yoga training when this was first introduced. And I was shocked at how busy my mind was when I'm in the shower. That's the one I use. And it's like, that's an opportunity for me. I'm fully awake. It's not like when you just wake up and you're kind of in and out of consciousness and you kind of can find some stillness. And that's a place where I was putting in a morning check-in just before I even get out of bed. But in the shower, it seems like I was awake and I was already on. I was off to the races. By the time I'm in the shower, I'm already thinking about the next thing that I have to accomplish, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing.
That's when I do my to-do list. That's when I do my to-do list.
Yeah, and I've had other people.
Taking a shower, like, okay, what do I have to go today? Like,
yeah,
that's when I.
And that's pretty much the way I was too. I think it's just that was a habit, and so, and I can't remember. I don't know if it was Vivian or not. Another one of my clients, my coaching clients, was mentioning that, oh no, I can't possibly change that because that's a place where I'm creative or a place that I rely on, so if it's something like that, that would be past edge, right? Because it's like, we don't want to put you in a situation where you're removing yourself from a normal routine that's super comfortable, where you're going to have an issue. So pick something else. Another one that I've tried on and off is washing the dishes. And it was incredibly challenging to do this, washing a dish, and I'm washing the fork. That's all I'm doing. Because even in that, my mind wants to plan out the next thing and the next dish that I'm going to do. Like, even just focusing on the dishes, I overanalyze and overdo that, which was an interesting observation because I think it's pretty much the way Bob's brain works outside of loading the dishes. I mean, how big of a deal is it that the dishwasher get loaded in a particular order in a certain way? So, you know, it'll be interesting to see the challenges that show up. And just like all of these other practices, the objective is not to get good at meditating. The objective is to see what comes up. You know, so sometimes we get caught up in, you know, I had a successful meditation because my mind never wandered. Well, if your mind doesn't wander, there's not an opportunity for growth. I'm sure I've told you the weight example. It's like you don't want to go to the gym and lift a feather, but you also don't want to lift a 2,000 pound weight. You're not going to be able to lift the 2001, or you're going to hurt yourself trying, and the feather is not going to give you any growth. So some of these practices, and the reason why we mix them up and do different ones, is we're a moving target. The brain wants to find its routine. And, you know, I've been at this pretty formally for what now? This is coming up onto my third year. Actually, 5 years I've been doing it total, but my third year in a more formal way. And you have to change it because we're a moving target, and we're never done. We never arrive on this journey. We're constantly working towards it. And, you know, as Vivian has expressed, and I think you mentioned, you know, you start to notice things out there, and that's the whole objective, is to notice how your reactivity and your behavior changes. And you've seen that, right? I mean, you've already seen that, like on your walks, you're more present. You know, anything that you make a habit creeps into your normal routine when you're not really doing it. It's like muscle memory. I was watching this show on ballet, and they were talking about the repetition of doing something, and then your body can do the ballet and you don't have to think. Can you think of an example where that showed up?
I guess like working out. Like, you know, if you go, like I used to go regularly, you know, Monday to Friday. You know, Monday I did chest, and Tuesday, so that repetition of, you know, it was just, you didn't even think about it anymore. You know, you go in the second day, and you know it was chest, and then the third, and so you knew what machine. So it was just, you know, that repetition of going.
Right. And that's, you know, that's what we're building, is this habit, so that we think even without thinking. Like when in that example, you're just moving on to the next machine. You don't have to look at your sheet or think about what the next thing is. It's like, this is chest day. I know the 6 things I'm going to do, or however many that is. And you just automatically move from the next to the next. So this is that training ground where we're getting ready to, or we're creating that muscle memory, but in the brain, that there's another option. Another
I guess
example,
right now, just running, when I try to do my running in the morning, at the end, I go and try to do like some push-ups, but also I try to take 5 minutes and sit down and just meditate, and just close my eyes and just let it go. You know, something like, notice to running, you know, I start doing what I'm going to do after this, you know. Oh my God, I have, you know, the meditation with Bob, and it's already 9:30, and I have to make coffee, and then, you know, and I just start doing, you know, not now, and see how it, you know, it does calm my mind. And I try to take those 5 minutes after the workout just to breathe and bring my heart rate. I can really feel how my heart rate, you know, after working out is pumping, right? And then after just sitting down and just meditating, how that just comes down.
yeah, well, and that's a great opportunity. Like when you're working out, your heart rate is something you can feel. We're sitting in a meditation, you can't. So that would be a great opportunity to use that physical sensation as a point of focus. Literally just honing in on that heart rate. There was an example I was trying to think of. Let's see if I can bring it back. On my walks, I I have a tendency, and you know me well enough to know, and I know Vivian does too, like to obsess. So like I want to get my 5 miles or my 12,000 steps, and I was raising that. It started at 2,500, then it was 3,000, then I upped it to 5,000, then 7,500. 10,000, 12,000. It's like, okay, that's enough. There's only so many hours in the day, and I 12,000 is, and then I was relating that
he was going to be running a marathon in a month.
Yeah, and again, the goal is a couple of things. It's to the physical activity, right? And it's something that you can do, hopefully your whole life. You have mobility enough to walk. I was talking to my sister about this, and she's got some stuff going on with her knees that she can't walk anymore. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and get as much walking in as I can while I still can, as long as I can still walk. But there was a tendency for me to go down that well-worn path of gotta get my steps in, and that creeps back in. And so this moment of sitting on a park bench and looking at the pond became not an option, right? Because if I sit for 15 minutes, then how many steps did I lose? So but it's because it's become a habit. I've been at this for so long. I'm like, well, there's a benefit also of taking that break at the cost of 2,500 steps or whatever 15 minutes is going to be. I don't even know. I haven't narrowed it down to by the minute, but it's like, it's worth it to take that break in overall, particularly the more I'm obsessed with getting it done, getting all the steps done, the more I know I need to sit. It's like, that you're out of balance, and it's this middle way that we're after. And so the mundane task is just a completely different than any of these other things, because it's something that you're doing. And I would recommend trying a couple of different things. And I know, Vivian, you've done this before, so maybe trying something that you haven't tried before. So I might go back to, like, I do these things along with you all during the week. So I think I'm going to consider some other things. You don't want it to be too complicated. Like, it might be making the bed or folding the laundry or something like that. But some of those things start to be more complicated, like it wouldn't be cleaning the house, because there's too many things going on. It needs to be something that, and you'll know right away when you find the one that is your planning time. And just like you said, Fernando, not the one thing maybe that that is an automatic dedicated time to do planning. You wouldn't want to take that one on, because now you've eliminated something and there's all kinds of stuff that's going to come up. So something that, but I would try at least 2 or 3 different things this week. Do you have any thoughts, Fernando, of what you might try? You're muted.
There's a lot of noise. Yeah, I guess, maybe, as I said, that when I'm working out, just bring that heart rate and just focus on that I'm doing already. And then I guess walking too, I try to clear my mind when I'm walking instead of trying to do a to-do list. I'm using the watch. I think it was Vivian, or I don't know who said it, not now.
Yeah.
And that has been helping me a lot.
It might have been Claudia. Yeah, I can't remember.
Claudia, I think it's Claudia. Yeah, I think it was Claudia. But that has helped me just to be present, right? To identify that I'm doing 3 things at one time, and I said, no, I can only, let's do one thing at a time. Let's do it correct. And and if I don't feel like, sometimes I go to, like, if I don't feel like running all the way or finishing all the workout that I had, that is fine too. But focusing just on this, and then I will do the next task next. But
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with self-compassion. I was listening to a podcast last night about having self-compassion. And that's been such an important part of my meditation journey, because I always felt like I was screwing it up. And the process of, meditation, probably not different than many things in life. The progress is not linear. In other words, it's not like you're going to continue up this steady progression of getting better and better at it. It's some days it's good and some days it's not. But just this week in particular, and I think it's because I kind of stepped back from everything. It's like I don't need to, my brain kept convincing me I needed to be a participant in the news still, with everything, coronavirus, president, all of this, inauguration coming up. And taking the break has quieted my mind enough that I don't have so much so loud, but I hear my thinking, I notice it. I've been very present to, like, when I first wake up, what's going through my mind. It's like, okay, yeah, and similar, maybe not saying not now, but it's just like, wait, I'm going to sit still with myself for a minute rather than go there. It's like, I start, again, either the to-do list or like the story I told you with the guy that can't get the capital gains tax, he's going to have to pay capital gains. It's like how I'm going to tell that story or what I do next, or, starting that planning process. And it's like, so it's a version of that not now, but it's like I hear the thoughts, seems like I hear the thoughts a lot louder than I used to, or maybe it's just an awareness. And that's what we're trying to get to. So we're going, oh, look, I'm doing it. There's that thing that my brain does that's completely normal, right? It's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way our brains work. So that's pretty much all I have. I mean, we don't really take an hour if I only got one person here, because I don't have anyone else to give me input.
Fine, you're cheating me on time. I'm kidding. I want 2 more classes. Oh, yeah, that's fine. You give me some time back. Now I can start doing stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Now you have another 15 minutes to meditate. Yeah. So I'm going to see if I'm going to try to remember to hit the record button. And can you see it up there? Where would it be?
Yes, it says recording.
Okay, so you see it. Yeah, so just remind me coming up in case I forget. The call I was on last night with my yoga studio, the teacher running it forgot to hit the record, and someone noticed it, and they were chatting with me, and I was paying attention to what she was saying and not the chat. So there's 25 people in the room, but just make sure, and we'll see if I can get this record thing to work.
I will try to remind you.
All right, hang in there. We will see you next week.
Okay, have a good one.